Hi, my name is Mark Farman. I'm a Senior Advisory Solutions Consultant at ServiceNow, and today I'm going to be walking you through Hardware Asset Management features of Paris. We're going to be discussing 4 new features in the Paris release. First is hardware model normalization, so normalizing the models of different manufacturers of hardware. Also, we're going to be covering asset lifecycle automation and the workflows that come out of the box in this new version. We're going to be talking about the asset inventory audit specifically from a mobile device, so scanning in different assets that might be in stock rooms and doing self-audits. And then we're going to finish up with hardware asset management dashboards, so the new dashboards that come with the hardware asset management in the Paris release that leverage performance analytics. So to set the stage for our hardware normalization that is new, let's talk a little bit about our content service. So the content service is all about bringing in inventory data that we're actually gathering from existing investments you've made in technologies such as SCCM, Active Directory, any inventory source that we have in your environment. We're going to inventory that data, connect, and bring it directly into ServiceNow. Now that will give us all of the raw or unnormalized data, anything from the make, the manufacturer, the serial numbers, the processors, the cores, all of that hardware information comes directly from your raw inventory sources. This information is then fed directly into our content team. Now our content team are badged employees at ServiceNow, and they do all of the research about what that hardware is, what's the model, actual real model number to that hardware. Also, they look at the end of life, end of support that might be actually with those particular hardware items. They take that information, they add it to our content library, they validate that, and then the updates actually flow out to all of our customers and all of their different instances. So this is actually done on a daily basis, and this information then gets fed directly into those instances for all of our customers. So how does hardware normalization work? So if you look up here at the 3 different MacBooks, you can actually see that the name of these might be slightly different depending on the inventory source that we're gathering this information from. But typically the model number of any given piece of hardware is directly from the manufacturer, and those are very, very similar or often the same. So from the new hardware normalization in Paris, we're actually taking those models and we're normalizing it down to the manufacturer, the product name, and the model number. This gets combined in the new version as the display name of that particular asset. So this asset is then compared to our content library, and all of that model information gets populated with end of life, end of support data as well, along with a common display name across all of those particular hardware assets. So no matter what inventory source you have and how different those inventory sources are, you end up with a common name for that particular CI within the ServiceNow CMDB. So inside the interface, what it looks like is you can actually see here that we have the name of a given asset is SP1 Net Shelter Rack, and this is the 3100. And you can actually see the manufacturer came in as the wrong manufacturer. Now what the normalization has done is it's recognized that this is the 3100. It's actually made by Schneider Electric. It's the product Net Shelter SX, and it's a cabinet, and the model number that we're keying off of is AR3100. And so you can actually see that this is now normalized, and we create the display name of Schneider Electric Net Shelter SX Cabinet AR3100 as the model. So once again, you can see here that anytime the manufacturer and the model number will match one of our normalization, ServiceNow now takes that data and puts a common display name. Along with that common display name, what you actually show is the end of life, end of support, extended support. Now, this can be filled in by you, or it can also be filled in by our content team, depending on if that manufacturer is publishing the end of life and end of support records for that particular hardware. Okay, so let's move on to some of the workflows that come out of the box with the new Ham Pro and the Paris release. So introduced in this, instead of the workflow editor like we had in the past, we now have what we call Workflow Designer. And it's taking advantage of a low-code workflow capabilities where we can add in different actions at any given state. And with Ham Professional comes out of the box several new workflows. These workflows include fulfillment, which is replenishing stock rooms, a workflow of how to order complete purchase orders and get those particular stock rooms replenished, along with auditing, the ability to scan different assets at stock rooms or warehouses or locations and account for what is actually on the floor. And asset management, so an incident request workflow that allows a help desk technician to swap out a CI. So if that particular screen was broken, they can simply engage a swap workflow that would allow all the inventory, all of the licenses, the contracts to be swapped for a new CI automatically. And the disposal of that particular asset. So gathering the proper documentation of destruction, attaching that, and tracking that particular progress. All of that is built into new Ham Pro. Also new is the mobile asset inventory. So the ability through the mobile apps to actually choose, let's say, a stock room, actually start a audit procedure that allows you to scan multiple barcodes at the same time. So walking around to individual items, scanning those particular barcodes, that information is automatically updated and it's correlated into this particular audit process. This audit process then is actually fed into ServiceNow that then you can account for this with scheduled audits. So as you can see here, you can actually see what is expected, how many is scanned and not expected, expected and not found, or any new items that were on shelf that were not supposed to be there. So this is really providing you accuracy for your warehouses and your stock rooms so you know exactly what is there and what may be missing. Now let's look at the hardware asset management dashboards that are new in Paris. So you have a number of different items, and these dashboards are really all about keeping you up to date with things like your end of life, your hardware refresh cycles, what you actually have from a model management this quarter, this year that you might actually have to sunset, and your life cycle overview, when your end of sale, end of life, and these particular assets might need to be replaced. Your normalization view, what have you normalized from a hardware perspective and what might not be normalized. Lots of new information, and all of these new dashboards are really there to give you visibility, model management, help with procurement, inventory, and specifically the end of life of assets. These new dashboards leverage the power of performance analytics and are out of the box with Ham Pro. Along with that visibility, you also can keep up to date with your inventory. See what open stock orders you have to replenish different warehouses. Look at your stock levels, what you might have from a computer, a consumable level, keyboard, mouse, machines themselves. Also keep track of your audit status. So utilizing that mobile application, going around and auditing different warehouses or even physical locations of the organization. All of that are now displayed on these out-of-the-box dashboards. So lots of really good information and available to you at your fingertips, along with all kinds of new structure from a normalization perspective, all of the new mobile abilities with the new mobile app. So lots of new features, and this is just scratching the tip of the iceberg when we're talking about new functionality within Ham Pro.